Hi everyone, I'm Matt from Looking to Bitcoin, and today we'll be looking at if Bitcoin has already capitulated. To do this, we'll be using a number of resources all freely available on lookintobitcoin.com, your number one source for Bitcoin information. If you haven't already, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications to ensure you're receiving all of our content as soon as it's released. So right now, we're just on the Look Into Bitcoin site on the net unrealized profit or loss chart. And there's no better way to really start to see if we're currently in a capitulation territory than looking at this chart, which outlines where we have historically seen capitulation events. So the net unrealized profit and loss, I won't go too much into how it's actually calculated. It's using the market cap, which is just the price multiplied by the circulating supply of Bitcoin, and the realized cap, which is the average aggregated price at which each Bitcoin was last moved at. Once we use them two metrics, we can come to the net unrealized profit and loss, or the NUPL number. So this is telling us in relation to the average price at which each Bitcoin was last moved at and the current price. So when we have a large number of Bitcoin that is beneath the price at which it was likely transferred, being bought or sold at, is substantially beneath the current price or the current market cap, this gives us a NUPL ratio which is actually negative, and this usually indicates capitulation territory, as a majority of investors currently likely sit at a loss. So we can see historically this has not happened too frequently. We had it during the 2020 COVID capitulation event, from the end of the 2018 bear cycle, in which we dipped from around $6,000 to around $3,000. Again, a very obvious capitulation event in hindsight. Previously in 2015, and then again very early in 2011. So right now we are in fairly uncommon territory in this capitulation area, and historically investors who have accumulated in these regions have been provided outsized returns for the upcoming cycles. Next, we'll go on to the fear and greed index. What other way to see if people are capitulating, if they are overwhelmingly bearish, than to see current market sentiment? And we are currently in one of the most extended periods of extreme fear Bitcoin's ever seen. We've had 74 days of extreme fear in the market, and only just now we are starting to see figures just outside of the extreme fear values. So this here is looking at a number of metrics such as social media posts and sentiment, current volume in the market, and preference of investors for Bitcoin or altcoins, other cryptocurrencies, and a number of other key metrics to give this fear and greed index score, which again, historically looking at whenever we've had these big clusters of extreme fear in the market, again, the COVID 2020 crash and the tail end of the 2018 bear cycle, we get these capitulation events, which in hindsight seem very obvious when we get these extreme moves to the downside, completely flushing out all interest of the retail market. These have historically been capitulation events, and we currently sit right about there right now. Next, and finally, we'll look at the Bitcoin Rainbow Price Chart Indicator. Now, this is logarithmically mapping out all of Bitcoin's price history, and then using that value, giving a few standard deviations to the upside and to the downside to work out historically the potential fair value of Bitcoin when just taking into account its price history. And we can actually see, once you take into account these deviations to the upside and to the downside, Bitcoin's price has followed this fairly accurately. And right now we currently sit in actually the lowest band of the Rainbow Price Chart. We're actually flip-flopping just between the lowest and second lowest band, which is defined as the buy and fire sale territory. This band currently sits at around just about $21,000, and as I film this, we are hovering just above that. The lower end of that band is about $15,750, and we've only come close to that on a handful of occasions, most notably the COVID 2020 crash. But even then, we still didn't quite touch that. All these charts are based on the closing data of Bitcoin's price history, so there may have been occasions where we wicked just beneath, but on Look Into Bitcoin, we're working off the closing price, and historically, we've never actually been to the bottom of the Rainbow Price Chart band, but we are incredibly close right now, and historically, whenever we've been in this fire sale deviation band, historically that has indicated a capitulation event, and again, historically a great time for strategic investors to try and pick up some discounted Bitcoin. So, just to summarize, if we compare where we are right now to all similar historic occurrences for Bitcoin, we are definitely in capitulation territory. This has only happened on a handful of occasions. In this video, we only looked at 3 charts, but across almost every on-chain and market cycle metric, we are definitely in capitulation territory. And if you're on social media platforms like Facebook, Twitter, etc., you'll just know yourselves that everyone seems to be overwhelmingly bearish, not just in cryptocurrencies, but in all investable markets in general. This is definitely a very bearish time to be an investor. So when we look at on-chain metrics such as the NUPL, the net unrealized profit and loss, this can actually show us from Bitcoin network derived data that many investors are currently at considerable losses, and this often coincides with the capitulation events and market bottoms. We can also see the sentiment, like the Fear and Greed Index shows us, that many investors have been in an extended period of extreme fear, and we are just actually at the tail end of that now. So it'll be interesting to look back in a few weeks and months to see if that was actually the capitulation event, and if in hindsight it is actually quite obvious that we have just witnessed the capitulation. We can also see from the market cycle metrics, such as the rainbow chart, that historically we are in discounted areas. So looking at on-chain metrics, sentiment indicators, and market cycle charts, we can see across almost all metrics and accounts, we are in capitulation territory. We may have already capitulated, we might have a little bit more downside to go, but we are probably historically within territory of capitulation. If you like this video, then please visit lookintobitcoin.com, where you can consider becoming a site subscriber to gain access to live charts, in-depth newsletters, indicator alerts, private trading view scripts, and more, all for a fraction of the standard industry price. Let me know what you think. Do you think we're in capitulation territory? Do you think we've already bottomed, or we have more downside to go? Are we going to have more red days coming? Let me know in the comments down below. I look forward to reading them. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.